Welcome to the Aquarian Shaman Broadcast. I'm Star Wolf, your shamanic host, and I'm here to teach you how to transform yourself and transform the world. Twice a month, we'll be exploring how to develop shamanic psycho-spiritual practices to support transformation while expanding your energy field in a way that can also support others. Each episode offers dynamic experiential guidance and teachings on how to safely enter a natural altered state of consciousness using the sacred breath. Additionally, we will discuss the importance of integration and grounding this medicine into your everyday life. Stay tuned. We're about to create authentic embodied change that will surely grow corn for the future generations. Welcome, everyone, to Transformation Network and Aquarian Shaman. So each time I open up by sending some smoke to you. And if you're new to that kind of language, it's about clearing the air. You know, sometimes we say we just need to clear the air here. And to clear the air, sometimes in this tradition, we burn sage. It's well known, it's been around for I don't know how long, for hundreds of years, probably thousands of years, maybe longer, to burn, well, certainly much longer to burn herbs, different herbs, but sage itself, which has the properties to be able to release negative energies. And also it said that the Great Spirit loves to smell it, and whenever we pray and burn it, we gain the attention of the great mystery. So acknowledging that we put whatever we want to today into the smoke to let it go. So I also like to, because people have asked me, I also like to always do a little bit of a disclaimer around the sacred objects that we have, that they come from natural sources. This particular wing came from Iceland, from a student and friend, colleague, and from a swan that passed naturally. From a pony, actually, a wild horse that passed naturally, and a piece of crystal she found on her journey, on her hike. And it was a beautiful, sacred gift that was sent. And I always honor and appreciate the creatures and the people who find them and honor them in this way. So with that, today, we have a very special guest, because this person is not only a special guest and an amazing human being, but she's also my neighbor. And she lives here in North Carolina, just over the hill here. She's not over the hill, but she's over the hill in her little cabin. And we run around in our golf carts back and forth to each other's spaces. And I'm going to read you a little bit more about it. But I just wanted to say that it's a blessing to have Sandy Roberts, Angel Wolf Wings, that's what I like to call her, spirit name that she has, as my neighbor, my friend, and as a high priestess. And we're in ceremony quite frequently together in our programs and things. And when Sandy's there, I always know that I can relax and let go, that she's got my back. And that's a really important thing, is to not need to do this work alone, is to have someone by your side that you can trust. Sandy Angel Wolf Wings Roberts has provided over 40 years experience. She was like 2 when she started. Yeah. Over 40 years of experience as a nurse practitioner in women's health. She combines herbalism and shamanic healing into her medical practice. Sandy is passionate about helping others learn how to heal themselves. I know that Sandy and I both really hold that dear to our hearts, that we all have to find that inner healer as well as the outer healers that help us. Sandy is the gardener in residence at Neteru Landing on Venus Rising's Dove Mountain, and I can vouch for that, having eaten her tomatoes and still having a bowl of them I'm munching on, and a beautiful bouquet of zinnias, still gorgeous on my dining table. So she's the gardener in residence at Neteru Landing on Venus Rising's Dove Mountain. She is a core staff member of Venus Rising, my organization, functioning as a supervisor and a mentor of shamanic breathwork with apprentices. She is a high priestess in ritual and ceremony with Venus Rising's programs and our shamanic mystery tours. I think maybe the last tour we took was to Egypt, and you'll be going back with us to Teotihuacan, Mexico next year.
Hmm.
Functioning as a mentor of shamanic breathwork apprentices. She is a priestess in ritual and ceremony with Venus Rising's programs and shamanic mystery tours. She is currently a doctorate candidate in shamanic psychospiritual studies with Venus Rising University. That's a lot. And you carry it all well, and walking between the worlds, which you do. I have to start out with a funny story first. No, Sandy knows probably what I'm going to tell, but when she moved here from Florida and she came up here and to really become a more integral part of Venus Rising's programs, and was really called to do that, and we're so grateful for that, and to also be a neighbor and community member and to work more closely with Venus Rising. She also went to work and with the clinic here and doing the work that she does, focusing a lot on women's health, which is really important. And I had to tease her because the little town that we live in Sylvan, North Carolina, we just live outside of it. It's a very small town, but they have liked to put up billboards. And for whatever reason, the clinic there put up a big sign with Sandy's picture on it and welcoming her to their practice. And what an unusual sort of thing. I don't know that I've ever seen any of that here before. I haven't paid attention, but I certainly saw Sandy up there one day and went, "What?" They didn't welcome me when I moved here from California, but anyway, it's her claim to fame that she's on you know, I always tease about that. My picture showed up in a bathroom wall on a poster when I was using the. I sat down and saw my face in a bookstore. But for you, you were on the billboard. You got a little bit better recognition, bigger photo, and all the cars coming by. So, but we like to tease like that. But
Hmm.
one of the greatest things is to have this beautiful person on the planet at this time, being a planetary service, being the Aquarian shaman that she is. And the last thing I say before I turn this over to Sandy to say some things to us is Sandy is also featured in my book, Aquarian Shaman. So when I went through, there were so many people that I've known over the years and loved and cherished. And I chose, I think, about 20 people, yeah, or so, that I really felt had made huge contributions to humanity, not only from more mainstream, but also from the Aquarian shaman perspective, and have managed to integrate those things. So, with that, Sandy, I'd like to just say welcome. Thank you for being here. And would you tell us a little bit? I've shared some things and we've read your bio, but could you share with us a little bit about how you came to have so much compassion and to wanting to be of service and some of your own heartbreaks and shamanic initiations along the way? Could you share some of that with us?
Sure. So I like to say that my mother actually started this before I think I was even in embryo form. She picked the name Sandra, and she used to write it when she was in school, doodling. And Sandra means helper of mankind.
Hmm.
So I think that my soul, the higher power, my contract decided that, yeah, okay, let's come do that. And I always thought it was fascinating. And from even at a very young age, I was constantly helping people with things, health things, even baby birds,
Hmm.
cats. animals, anything that I could be. Anybody that they had me question about, quote, health concerns growing up, they came to me. They asked me. And so I feel like it was a predestined thing that that's who I would become. Um, and as I stepped into the nursing realm, I started as a certified nursing assistant when I was in high school to see, hey, did I really want to do this? And I did. And was in college, and I always thought I'd do pediatrics because I grew up with a handicapped cousin, and he was so special. He had spina bifida, and he was special. He had a little bit of hydrocephalus, and from a very early age, I always helped take care of him. And so I thought I'd do pediatrics. And then I saw a baby being born, and I thought, whoa, this is huge. This is definitely something I want to get into. So I became a high risk labor and delivery nurse and saw many births, delivered many, many babies, not on purpose, sometimes by accident because the doctor hadn't shown up. And that's where my life just kind of took me. I found my niche with women, and women really need to be seen and heard because so much of the time we're not. We're told we're crazy, whatever. And I had an experience in college with a women's health nurse practitioner. And in the back of my mind, I was like, yeah, I want to be this. This is who I want to be, because she was so profound in her words and non-judgmental and just very open and loving and honest. And yeah, that's how I decided to do that. So my ex-husband and I were living in Massachusetts, which is where I grew up, and we moved to Florida, and I unfortunately got into a car accident, and that was kind of the first wake up call, like, hey, hello, you're not paying attention to what you're supposed to be doing. And at that time I had left bedside nursing, and I was actually in administration, and I knew I wanted to get back to seeing patients. And so that began my nurse practitioner journey. And I had always had little windows of spirit, angels, great mystery, like in my little ear, just showing me different things. And before I went to nurse practitioner school, it started again because I'd kind of turned away from it. It scared me. So I went to nurse practitioner school and got remarried, started help raising 3 children, and belonged to a practice. And then in 2008, my middle stepdaughter, Kyla, we got a call saying that something was really wrong. They saw something, but she didn't tell us at that time. And she looked like she was 7 months pregnant. Kyla was not 7 months pregnant. She had a very rare form of ovarian cancer. And thus began the journey of dark night of my soul, of going through the treatments with her and the surgeries with her from the time of diagnosis to the time that she died was 9 months.
Wow.
And she was 21. She was at the prime of her life, and she was so special to me. All the kids were special to me, but Kyla was just very different. She was very much like her dad. And we lost her, and that left such a hole in my heart I didn't think I would ever come back from. And I really at one point thought that I just didn't want to be around. And life goes on, and time goes on, and my youngest daughter got married, and she got pregnant, and Miley Bug came along, who is joy of my heart. And things started to shift for both my late husband and I. He started to really enjoy life again, and so did I. And we bought a house. My mom at the time had cancer, and she came to live with us. And 11 months after we moved to the house, I lost my beloved. And the year later, I lost my mom. And I was so shut down emotionally. I couldn't cry. I didn't know what to do. And my sister-in-law happened to come across something called Journey to the Soul Recovery, Journey to the Heart, I think it was, or Soul's Journey. I can't remember the whole name of the program, in Sedona, which is where I met my beloved Star Wolf and Nicholas Wolf. And they changed my life. What I was hearing, what I always felt, I never really felt like I fit in to the family or friends. I always felt just separate. And once I met these people, my life really started to fall apart and change all at the same time, which was the best thing that ever could have happened. I didn't realize I have a lot of alcoholism in the family. I was not an alcoholic. I smoked some pot in high school, a little bit in college. I didn't have time. I was studying. I was in the College of Nursing. But I really didn't, that wasn't my main thing. My thing was, I can fix you. Like nobody can.
Somebody's got to do it.
Uh-huh.
Just kidding. Just kidding. We know that doesn't
Uh-huh.
work.
And Star told me I was a flaming codependent.
Well, all I'm going to say about that is it takes one to know one.
And thank God she did. And I started to look at my life and realized that everything had to be taken away from me in order for me to focus on myself.
Mm.
Because if I had something else to focus on, that's what I focused on, healing. And it took me a couple of years, and finally decided I needed to resign from my position after almost 20 years at being at a OBGYN practice in Florida. And I was going to travel. I thought that's the best way for me to heal is to travel. And then COVID hit. So I traveled within. I am a charter member of the first Ship Online Shamanic Healing Initiatory Process and the one and only Skills Online. And I found my people, and it called to my soul, and I did some profound healing and changes, and I would come to the mountain and help out during Ship Online, whether it was cooking a turkey upside down by accident or meatballs, and just listening and listening to the teachings again and listening to the processing. And I continued to come back. And then in 2021, we had a hybrid program where I was here on the mountain, and that's when I became a master practitioner of the work. And then in 2022, we got back from Egypt. I had a very good friend that stole all my jewelry, over $20,000 worth, and I just wanted to burn my house down. And that was the first big shift of, okay, I need to move. The mountains had been calling me for a few years, actually, even before I met Star. I would see these mountains, and I made the decision that it was time to give up the house, and I wanted to move up here to North Carolina. Wasn't sure where I was going to go. So we went to a wonderful mystery tour in Glastonbury and St. Nectan's Glen, and that really shifted me again. And I came through the birth canal, and as soon as I got back, the house went on the market, and I went and I had a 3,000 square foot house, and I basically sold pretty much everything. The only thing I had left was what I could get in my car and in a pod. And I moved up to Pan's Pad, not me and my cat, not knowing where I was going to live permanently, what I was going to do, but I just knew I needed to be here. And here I am.
Yeah. I just hearing all that is such a, powerful, it's your big story, it's
Right.
the archetypal story of, you know, that being aware of the cycles of change. And what I heard from you is long even before you came here, before we met, before Venus
Right.
Rising, is that you've been a person who's had that shamanic spirit, whether as a child or an adolescent, you know,
Mm-hmm.
and Sandra, the name, the symbology of that,
Mm-hmm.
uh, and then you know, shamanism is really about birth, death, and rebirth. And a lot of people go, "Oh boy, that sounds cool. That's fun. It can be a fad for people," but they seem to conveniently forget the death part. The birth and the rebirth they think about, but the death and the pearl of great price, the sacred, the word sacrifice is derived from the word sacred.
Sacred. Mm-hmm.
And
Yeah.
I'm not talking about being codependent and constantly suffering over this or that and bleeding
Mhm.
heart, but the sacred comes from that intensity of transformation of birth, death, and rebirth. And that is the shamanic path. And my own view about that is whether human beings want to recognize it, acknowledge it or not,
Right.
we live on a shamanic planet. And what it means is that every year, lots and lots of trees lose their leaves. They stand there naked in the winter, or in the
Mm-hmm.
fall, whenever. The waters change, the storms come. We had the hurricane that blew through Asheville.
Right.
It's destroyed millions of trees. Thing changed the course of rivers, even. Sounds
Mm-hmm.
bizarre, but it did. That nature is always in flux of times of kind of what we call the normal weather or what's expected, and then violent, almost upheavals, it feels like, that creates a lot of destruction. Volcanoes, earthquakes, the fires that rage across the mountains and the redwoods and all these kinds of things, sometimes here in North Carolina too. These things periodically happen in cycles. They just do. It's not because we're necessarily bad, although I do think the environment and the lack of respect for the environmental systems creates more of those things that are not natural, not coming from supernatural, but they're
Right.
coming from man-made or human-made, I should say. Don't blame just the men. The
Mm-hmm.
human-made. And yet we are on, and Grandmother Twyla, who you've heard me teach many times about, the cynical Wolf Clan grandmother, said we are on a birth, death, and rebirth planet. And Jackie Small said that too. We are here to go through transformation from caterpillars to butterflies, to
Mm-hmm.
understand not only life, birth and life, but also death. And death, whether we like it or not, is simply about, although it's anything but simple when it's happening to us, but it is about change. You know,
Yeah.
for every time, under heaven, there is a season, turn, turn,
Turn,
turn.
turn. Mm-hmm.
And there's a way in which we human beings fight it, or at least I do, until that great hand, if you will, of the great mystery says, you're not getting your way out of this one. This is requiring you to surrender
Mm-hmm.
and to open up to great mystery.
Right.
And while it feels cruel at the time, just like that piece of grit that's so irritating in the clamshell, causing so much pain, the pearl of great price is born. I look back over, like I call you Wolf Wing. I look back over the times of my life and where I became a clearer vessel and more open and more, I would say, have more wisdom and more love and understanding and compassion for self and others. I'm not going to say necessarily during the process, but as
Mhm.
I started surrendering to the process and coming out the other side, I could see the bigger story.
Yeah.
And that's what I'm hearing from you. And so you've talked here about, your childhood, your adolescence, your adulthood as a young woman and raising family and how you wound up here. Okay. And
Mhm.
now since then, if you could speak a little bit into, and you did about some of the places you've been and stuff, but what do you feel and I know that you're still working with the clinic here and that sort of thing, at least for now. But what would you say is the biggest change for you at this moment in consciousness for where you are now, and perhaps maybe for where you're headed? Or do you see that yet?
I see some of it, and I think the biggest change for me is living in nature, being with the cycles of nature, being in the elemental world and really embodying the the elements of what we live in the elemental world, being a part of the land, being a part of the water, being a part of the fire, being a part of the air and a part of the spirit, and not being afraid to show who I am.
That's a big one.
Yeah. And return, I took about 3 years off from clinical practice. And when I returned to practice as a nurse practitioner, I don't practice the way I did before. I'm not codependent about it. And I realized I'm there as a witness and as a coach in some ways. I'm not there to fix people because I had to fix myself with the help of great spirit, great mystery, all that is, all that was, and all that will be. Um, that I'm my remedy and I am my cure. And the death part of all of those changes are devastating, and yet at the same time, the realization is I would not be who I am right now if those people hadn't have died. And I also realized, and I remember back from biology, our cells are dying and being created all the time. It's a constant thing in all living beings on this earth. And so death is just another part of that. It's just a different formation. And what we miss is the human form, that soul. We miss
Mm.
the touch, the smell, the hugs, the feelings of that. And I never really thought I would be happy again until I came here and found myself in nature and watching my birds and watching the leaves, which they're actually starting to change right now, even though we haven't even hit September yet. Um, Watching the worms, watching crazy looking bugs, and that to me, the wonder and the power in that, I don't even have the words to express how it makes me feel, how it fills my soul with such joy and peace. And when I'm feeling bad, I go to the soil,
Mm.
or
Yeah.
I walk up to the waterfall, or go talk to Isis or Sekhmet. Um, and I know it's not a permanent thing. And sometimes, as things happen the way they're supposed to for reasons we may not know, and sometimes we know. And
Mm.
so the way I practice at work, I know if someone comes in, I'm asking them about their life. I'm asking about what they're doing. I'm asking about how they're feeling about it, because their symptoms are just symptoms of something else that's missing in their life,
Mm.
or trauma in their life that they don't even know about.
That they
And
haven't
so,
released yet, perhaps, that they
yeah,
haven't had an opportunity.
absolutely. I like to say, if you have issues and you don't deal with them, it shows up in your tissues. I had a patient that told me that once, and I borrowed it with no problem from that patient. And it's really true, and I see it over and over again. And there are some people you can crack open and kind of make your way in, and they start to see that they're the one that can heal themselves.
Hmm.
That there's no magic pill that's going to make them happy or well or whatever. And so
Mhm.
that's kind of what has changed. That and living in community. That was what I was living, dying in Florida. I didn't have a community. Yes, I had my family and I had friends, but it was the community of the people, the way I thought and lived and wanted to be with. And so that's really what has changed and brought me to where I am. And the realization that we all have that within us.
So you made such a big shift, that took a lot of courage. It took a lot of surrender and opening and knowing that, you've been around the block a few times. So, there's no such thing as a cure just because you move someplace or,
Right.
because we take us with us. But there are times when a plant needs to be put in different soil,
Right.
in order for it to thrive. It doesn't mean that where it's been has been wrong or that, it shouldn't have been there, but it may be a place where it's actually going to flower and be more prolific in its blooming, and receive more of the nutrients that it needs in order to
Mhm.
really be able to open up to the gifts. And I've watched you, witnessed you over the past several years really bloom in magnificent ways. You already
Thank
do a
you.
beautiful job. I know you have always done. Well, no, I know before I've ever known you that all those things you were doing, that you were loving people, and that was the biggest healing thing that they were getting from you. In addition to whatever prescriptions or medical procedures or whatever, it was your presence, and um, having been someone who's had a lot of difficulty with medical situations, I know that that presence for me is number one. That here is a person who, even if they've never met me before, they already love me. They care about me. They're holding that. And, um, they're holding that energy and they're going to work with me to support me to heal myself. And knowing that they can, provide things, do things, or whatever, but they're not my healer. Even though we say we're working in healing practices, what we're really doing, and I know you know this, is that we're reflecting people back that the healer is within. And in my early years, working in mental health for many years, um, you come to mental health because you usually have mental health issues, you know. Like I said, physician heal thyself. But as a
Uh-huh.
young woman working in the mental health center and then working in addictions, and I've been sober for 43 years. So again, being drawn to the things that where we need to heal ourselves is frequently where we're drawn to. And then really stepping into over these years of what does it mean to be a shamanic practitioner? What does that really mean? And paradigm shamanism, there is this thought kind of like, the Pope or the medical doctor or whatever is going to get you into heaven or fix you, or, that was more what they call the Piscean age, where it was more of a, authoritative figure. And while
Mhm.
we look to people, certainly I respect you, you respect me, we respect people and their education and their what they've experienced and everything. We are saying this through Venus rising, and I know you say this in your world, like you said, I can ask the questions, I can hold the space, I can do whatever, but I'm not here to fix you because I don't see you as broken. I see you as undergoing a shamanic journey, a shamanic experience to awaken your own Aquarian shaman within. And so just kind of throwing the ball back to you around that. How do you see yourself evolving in the next years? Do you have a vision as an Aquarian shaman of what that would look like in your perfect world? We know it won't be exactly what we vision. I have some thoughts for myself of what would happen here and other places.
Mhm.
But do you have a vision for your ongoing spiral path of how you can embrace your Aquarian shaman even more and support others to do so?
Yeah, I do. And eventually, I will leave the quote medical world. It is it's a very broken system. Um and I'm very fortunate in the practice that I work for. It's not a corporate practice. It's owned by a nurse practitioner. Um, and we work hard, but she supports us in such ways that I have never felt so held in my life in that profession.
What a
Um,
blessing.
it's very much a blessing. And, even today, I normally work till 6 and told them I had an appointment and I was doing an interview and that I needed to leave, by the latest 3:30, and no problem, not a fuss, not a anything. And so I've never had that before. So my boss is really trying to change some of those things and take care of her people as well as take care of our patients. I do love the patients very, very deeply and their stories. And I think a lot of times the things that we go through in this life, for me, it's only helped me to open my heart bigger and be more empathetic to them, because I can go, me too. I truly understand what you're going through. So the things that I have had help me to share with them that, hey, look, I'm still standing and look at where I am. I'm still going on. You can do this too. And this is how I did it. And if they need more support, then I know who to call and have them schedule an appointment with our beloved Judy Redhawk, who today I had a patient, just as an example, who she has a lot of trauma, a lot of fear, and I've worked with her and had her started working. She agreed to talk to Judy, and she kind of had this experience where she woke up. She woke up, and I told her, I said, that's what I really felt was going on for you, but until you go through it, I can't really explain it to you. So she came off some of her medicines, and so she's doing well, and we're going to take it from there. But just by listening to her and holding space for her to be able to understand what was happening to her and how she believed that that's what was happening as well, and that her empathic abilities are starting to show up. She's seeing things move that you normal or linear people don't see move. And I said, yep, I think that's what exactly is happening for you. So to watch that, I would like to foster that more and more. And so part of my dream is to have a place here on the mountain and to see clients and to be available to them, whether it's counseling, whether it's helping them medically in some way, because sometimes we do need medicines.
Of course.
But there's sometimes we don't. And I'm not one of those people that let's give you a pill. Let's figure out what's the cause of it. As you always said, it's not disease, it's dis-ease. And it's really very, very, very true. And so that's what I'd like. I'd like our gardens to grow and for us to have a lot more food sustainability here on the mountain. And that's been an experiment going on. I think this is my third summer planting, and some things worked and some things didn't. So that's where I think I'm headed, Star. As well as continue with Venus Rising. We have our Blue Star Mystery Group, Priestess Process, and really step more into that priestess role, because I really feel so called to be a priestess. And having been to Egypt twice and been on, especially the second time we went to Egypt, it was so clear that was a part of what I am and who I've been.
Yeah. Well, let's just feel into that for just a minute, because what I'm really hearing, you need to write your own book, by the way. From heartbreak and, mother and, nurse practitioner, to Aquarian shaman, to priestess, and that spiral journey and the willingness. Because, you know, Wolfwing, I feel that everybody at some level, because we're elemental beings, our body is earth, our blood and the water, is the
Mhm.
water in our bodies. We're mostly water, they say.
Right.
The air that we breathe, and that's, activating all the cells and circulation and, providing that life, that sacred breath, our physical bodies, the skin, the bones, everything that's holding them. So we have this earth and this energy of fire moving through us, and this circulation and this heart pounding, and somehow this apparatus that we call a human body. Um, I used to believe that it housed the spirit and the soul. I now believe, um, and beliefs can change, but I really believe that this body is being penetrated by life force energy, and that spirit, if you will, or soul, is much bigger than our physical body, and that we're inside of it. And that, if you will, go out into the frequencies or vibrations around the body that we call auras, that's mainly where the spirit is. And it's interfacing with everything in nature, in outer space, with the stars, the moon, the sun, the way we're all, people are so interested, astrology and things like that, the planets, but also the unseen dimensions. They say there's way more dimensions than we can perceive. When we go
Mhm.
into altered states with shamanic breath work or the other things that we do, or sometimes a dream, or sometimes an illness,
Mhm.
okay, or an accident will take us into those realms because we kind of have to get out of body a little bit.
Right.
It's interesting with the breath work that we do, and you're a master practitioner of that now, and you're actually holding space for the people who are learning how to become master practitioners in our organization. Is that really helping people um, go into doing the healing work that they need to do for themselves, kind of coming in, and a lot of times they don't even really know,
Right.
like, oh darn, I didn't even know I had that. I'm still looking like, oh my, I'm still, after all these years, I'm going like, whoa, I didn't see that. There's always another present to open up, to be more present.
Mhm.
And you know but also to help people drop things that no longer serve them, that's which is a death, and so it
Right.
can bring up trauma or anxiety or all kinds of things. um, so when those master apprentices, and I know when you're working with us, you're working with all the participants and the staff, we work together, but you also have a big focus on the master apprentices.
Right.
And because you've been through that, you have a sense, and you've already just shared that really vividly today, of all the changes that brought about that you didn't see in the beginning. That, well, I'll just go do this, I'll do a little healing, I'll feel better. Oh no, I'm going to
Exactly.
sell my house, I'm going to move into this, you know it's like, oh wow, wait a minute, hold on. And yet here you are with great hair, I have to say, you know how I feel about your
Thank
hair,
you.
and with all these opportunities, perhaps to be maybe so much more than you ever envisioned, or maybe you did as a child. Most of us have, like, I'm
Mhm.
superwoman. Here you are, where a lot of people say, well, I'm just going to ride it out, I'm just going to retire now. And you're saying, oh no, I am in a whole nother octave. I've got so much more to live, to experience, so I just, I'm not asking a particular question here, but just from what I've said, what does that stir within you, with how you support others in the master program, and or maybe even how you see yourself evolving now?
I think what it stirs in me, first of all, I got goosebumps all over my body because I don't always stop and think about what it is I've done and how much I've done. Because in some ways, you do go along and do everything. But I think that when I'm working, especially when we start working with people and watch them go through their programs, and then they decide they want to really embody what we're doing, and then they come back as master apprentices, and to watch them change and grow and see the changes, it helps to reflect to me, oh yeah, you did that too, remember, you went first, you know.
Yes. Yes.
And
That's important. You
yeah,
went first. There's the
you went
trust.
first, right? And oh, I saw what you did there. I went from a 3,000 square foot house to a 400 square foot house. That was a huge change. And a lot more people like, how did you do that? I just did it, with prayers and focus, and I knew that that was the right thing. But I also see other opportunities, and I learned from them as well. And so it's never just mentoring. It's a shared exchange and energy with those mentorees that is life changing and will, I don't think, ever go away. They'll always be a part of my heart, and
Yes.
to watch them grow and change is just so amazing. And whether they become master practitioners or not, we have chats with our students and see what they're doing. It gives me hope, and
Mhm.
and I'm sure, I know, I feel proud that I had got to witness it.
Well, there's a midwifery there again. You've been a midwife for a lot, right?
I'm
That you're,
midwife, life, death, in
uh-huh.
between.
And
Yes.
rebirth,
In
you know,
rebirth. Yeah.
because a lot of the people that come to us, some people maybe are younger and searching and haven't had a career yet, but a whole lot of the people that come to us have had careers. We have
Mm-hmm.
medical people, we have attorneys, we have
Mm-hmm.
people, lots and lots of people have been in mainstream at the top of their field.
Right.
And yet, and they really excelled at what they did. They succeeded, and they said, "What's next?"
Right.
And it felt to them, probably sometimes because of tragedy, something got their attention. That tends to be that something happens. It doesn't have to be an outright tragedy, but it has to discomfort. That there's something not right. There's
Right.
something, a next step of some kind, for not only for the human part of ourselves, but for the soulful part of ourselves. It says, part of Abraham Maslow's work is, becoming that authentic person and being an integrated person who then brings back something to life
Right.
and brings, truly brings their gifts of service to the planet.
Right.
That's one of the highest levels of being a human. It's a very transcendent thing, because often what you're bringing to the world, you're probably not going to see it completely flower. Well, you might from the other side, but it's
Mm-hmm.
going to be so much bigger than you, just like raising your children. You
Right.
know, you usually, know that your daughter passed, but you look forward to seeing these people flower in their own right.
Right. To go
And
off, they
so,
get married, have their own
yeah,
kids, and
yeah,
watch them figure out who they really are.
who they really are, which could mean divorce
Right.
or, changing gender identities. I mean, all kinds of things, or preferences for,
Right.
who you love, those kinds of things, or where you live. So, we've only got a few minutes left, but just to kind of hone in on that for a moment, of how sacred it has been for you to be there with the women who trusted you with their bodies for healing, and trusted you with their bodies to help birth babies and to care for them in that way. And now to be at another octave of that, to help the souls that are incubating within Venus Rising and within your care as a master practitioner and guide,
Mm-hmm.
to say, let me share with you what happened for me and how I did it. Maybe this will help you on your path. And who are you becoming? You know,
Mm-hmm.
some of these people, this, that come through for the master program for shamanic breath work, they're coming through mainly for their healing. Their shamanic healing restored process.
That
They
was
may not know it, but they're mainly coming for their own healing, whether they know it or not. But it is the first step, if you really want to do the work, is, position, heal thyself.
right.
And then to come through the other programs more and more to get a sense of, Yes, I want to be a shamanic minister. Yes, I want to be a shamanic breathwork facilitator. But even beyond that, I want to walk in shamanic consciousness in everyday life in all my affairs. And what does that mean?
Right.
So I'm going to ask you, what does that mean for you? I know for me, it means to be in touch with myself, my loved ones, my, animals, my nature around me, and to be a steward and to continually ask myself, is this still my soul's purpose? And be willing to continue to change. What is it to you as kind of your last
It
sharing with us?
it's the same, and it's to be conscious of everything. It's from the weeds to the bugs to the birds, the leaves. It's being aware that everything is alive and we're all a part of it and we're all connected in certain ways. And you know, to be aware that if I step on an ant in my house, I realize I'm killing it, and I ask for permission, not permission, but apology that
Yeah.
that life had to end, but to honor that life. And that's in everything that I do.
Yes.
Recycling, trying to be aware of how much plastic and what my quote carbon footprint is, and trying to, getting our golf carts so that we're not, using gas going up and down the roads, or trying to keep the roads as good as we can, and decreasing that, and allowing nature to be nature, and to fit in with that, and not try to have dominion over it.
Hmm. And I also know that you share this magic with your grandchildren.
Yes.
Yeah. So that and you
Yes.
get to be that witchy, sacred, rascal grandmother that
Right.
plants that seed for them so that someday they can say, I had this grandmother, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
And
it's
a
really
new soul on the way, which
do
is
what? I'm
with
sorry.
a new soul on the way, a new baby.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. Well, I personally just want to acknowledge you again and thank you for all the ways that you touch my life, for all that you contribute to Venus Rising, for gracefully stepping onto the path of shamanic consciousness and Aquarian shaman. It's just been an osmosis process, if you will, of evolution ever since I met you. And I only expect that to continue to go further and further. I support the greening of our mountain even more. And we had to do a lot of construction over there, but now it's really ready, and it's really showing up this year that it's ready with all the growth of everything green over there,
Oh yeah.
and I also see the greening of you,
Mm.
as well, and the spread of your energy, and that you're um, contagious in a good sort of way wherever you go and whatever you do, Sandy Wolf Wings. And I really, like, I have to say one more thing, and that is, I really, really, really appreciate you being that high priestess by my side when we're doing rituals and ceremonies of healing and transformation with people here, especially at the Temple of Isis. So,
Mhm.
um, I just want to thank you again, and I feel really great about this interview. I feel great about introducing you and who you are to the world more. If people would like to get in touch with you, what is your email? I know that they can contact me, but would you care to give out your email?
Sure. It's Sandy at shamanicbreathwork.org.
Okay.
All
And
lowercase. Mhm.
and I know that at some point in the near future that you're going to be offering more and more offerings in your new building that you create for yourself to um, although we have a lot of temples here, but your own space where you are seeing clients in a different capacity in the days or months or years to come. So thank you for coming to my life. Thank you for being who you are, and thank you for being on this interview today.
Thank
Really
you.
beautiful. Just such a great example of walking the practical feet walking the practical path with mystical feet, as Jacqueline Small would say,
Mm.
our predecessor, who's 90 years old this month, and also grandmother Twyla,
Mm.
who would have been 90. Oh, she'd be over 100 and something now because she left at 93. So just honoring our ancestors that have come before us.
Absolutely.
Thank you. And I
Thank
love
you
you.
so much.
And I'll
Love
see you
you
soon. Mwah.
This is Star Wolf, and you've been listening to the Experiential Aquarian Shaman broadcast. Transform yourself, transform the world. Join me every second and fourth Tuesday at 2 p.m. Pacific on Transformation Talk Radio to awaken your inner Aquarian shaman. Never miss an episode. Subscribe to my channel and connect with me on social media at Linda Star Wolf. For more information about my offerings and trainings, visit shamanicbreathwork.org. Thank you for taking this special time to journey with me.